Baby, I need you to listen to me right now. Not the way you half listen when you're doing something else, when your eyes are somewhere and your hands are busy, and my words are just background noise. I need you to actually stop, put everything down, come all the way into this moment with me, because what I am about to say to you is the kind of thing that once said cannot be unsaid, and I have waited too long already. I have swallowed this back down too many times, talked myself out of it too many nights, convinced myself that the timing wasn't right, or the words weren't ready, or you weren't ready, or I wasn't ready, but I am done waiting. I am done choosing silence over truth. And if you walk away from this without hearing me, really hearing me, then I don't know what's left. I don't know where that leaves us. And that terrifies me more than saying any of this ever could. So please, stay with me, just for right now, just for this. I need to tell you what has been happening inside me, the real version, not the version I show when I'm trying to seem like I have everything together, not the version that smiles and says everything is fine when everything is the furthest thing from fine, the actual version. The one underneath all of that. The one that has been pressing against the surface for so long that I can't keep it contained anymore, because I have been losing you. Slowly, quietly, in ways I'm not sure you've even noticed. I have been feeling you slip through my fingers like water, like light, like something I desperately want to hold on to, but can't seem to grip tightly enough. And I need you to know that. I need you to understand that this feeling, this specific terrifying breathless fear of losing you, is what finally broke through every wall I had left. Because I would rather break open than lose you quietly. I want to go back to the beginning, not because I'm living in the past, not because I can't move forward, but because I think somewhere along the way, we forgot what the beginning felt like. And I think if you remember it the way I remember it, something in you will understand why I'm saying all of this now. Why this moment matters so much, why I cannot let another day pass without putting every single honest thing I have directly into your hands and asking you to hold it carefully. Do you remember what it was like before everything got complicated? Before life piled its weight on top of what we had? Before the noise of the world got loud enough to drown out the quieter, more important sounds between us? I remember it with a kind of clarity that surprises me sometimes. The way a scent can suddenly take you back somewhere completely. The way a certain quality of light can collapse all the years between now and then in a single second. I remember what it felt like to be near you, before I knew how much I needed you. That warmth, that ease, that feeling of being exactly where I was supposed to be without having to think about it, or earn it, or hold my breath waiting for it to disappear. I didn't know then what I know now. I didn't know that what I was feeling in those early moments was not just the beginning of something good, it was the beginning of something that would fundamentally rewrite who I was as a person. I didn't know that you would become so woven into the fabric of how I understand myself, that trying to separate you from me would feel like trying to separate a color from light. I didn't know any of that then. I just knew that being around you felt like breathing correctly for the first time. Like every breath before you had been slightly wrong, slightly shallow, slightly missing something essential. And then there you were, and suddenly everything was full. I have been thinking about all the ways I have failed you. And I need to say that out loud because I think it matters. I think you need to hear it. And I think I need to say it. Not as punishment, not as self-destruction, but as honesty. Real honesty. The kind that requires you to look directly at your own behavior without flinching and name what you see. I have not always shown up for you the way you deserved. There were moments when you needed me to be present, and I was distracted. Moments when you needed me to be soft, and I was hard. Moments when you were quietly asking for something. Not with words, because you rarely ask with words. You ask with your eyes and your silences, and the specific way your energy changes when something is wrong, and I missed it. I saw the signal, and I let it pass without responding. And I am so sorry for that. More sorry than I know how to properly express. Because you deserved better than a person who sometimes looked right at what you needed and chose the easier thing instead. But here is what I also need you to hear. Here is the other side of this honesty. Because real honesty is never just one direction. I have loved you in ways you haven't always seen. In the quiet ways. In the background ways. In the ways that don't announce themselves or ask for recognition. Every time I changed something about myself because I knew it was affecting you. Every time I swallowed my own frustration because your peace mattered more to me than being right. Every time I lay awake running through a conversation we had, not to win it in my head, but to understand it better, to understand you better, to figure out how to be what you needed more completely. I have been working on this, on us, on becoming someone who deserves to be standing next to you. And I need you to know that even when it wasn't visible, even when it didn't look like anything from the outside, the work was happening. You were always worth the work. I need to talk about the distance, because something shifted, and I felt it, and I don't think we ever actually talked about it. There was a moment, I can't give you an exact date. It wasn't a single moment really, it was a gradual thing, a slow cooling, where I felt you start to pull back, not dramatically. Not with a fight or a confrontation, or any of the things that would have at least given me something clear to respond to. Just quietly. The way warmth leaves a room slowly, so slowly you don't notice until you're already cold. Your laughs got a little shorter, your silences got a little longer. The space between us in a room stayed a little wider, and I noticed every single millimeter of it. I noticed and I didn't say anything, and I don't fully understand why, except that I think I was afraid. I was afraid that if I named it, it would become more real. That if I reached for you, you would step back further. That the distance might be your way of telling me something I wasn't ready to hear. So I stayed quiet, and you stayed quiet. And the distance stayed. And I have hated myself for that silence every single day since. Because here is what I know about you. You do not pull away from things that are good. You do not create distance from something that is making you feel safe and seen and loved. When you retreat, it is because something hurt you. When you go quiet, it is because something went unaddressed for too long. Because something built up inside you that you didn't know how to bring to me. Because at some point, you stopped trusting that I would receive it the right way. And knowing that, really sitting with that truth breaks my heart. Not in a dramatic way. In a quiet, serious way. In the way that makes a person want to reach back through time and shake themselves awake, make themselves pay more attention, make themselves be more worthy of the trust that was being placed in them. I don't want to be someone you don't trust with your real feelings. That is one of the most important things I can tell you. I don't want to be the person you edit yourself for. The person you consider before you speak. The person you protect yourself from. I want to be the safest place you have. I want to be the one person in your entire world who you know without any doubt will receive whatever you bring, without flinching, without judgment, without making you feel like you asked for too much, or said the wrong thing, or needed in a way that was inconvenient. I want to be that for you. I am not sure I have always been that for you. But I want it so badly that it sits in my chest like something urgent, like something that cannot wait. And this is the part that matters most. This is the reason I needed you to really listen. Because I have realized something recently, something that has been clarifying over weeks and months of quiet reflection, something that has moved from a feeling into a certainty, the way the best truths always do, slowly and then all at once. I realize that I have been operating as if we have unlimited time, as if there will always be another chance to say the important things, another opportunity to close the distance, another moment down the road where everything will be better positioned for honesty. I have been living as if the story of us is guaranteed to continue simply because I wanted to. But nothing is guaranteed, and you are not guaranteed. And the thought of a world where you are no longer in my life, where your laugh is no longer something I get to be responsible for, where your quiet is no longer something I get to sit inside of, where your particular way of existing in the world is something I only remember instead of something I get to witness. That thought does not produce sadness in me. It produces something closer to terror. Clean, clear, unambiguous terror. The kind that strips everything unnecessary away and leaves only what matters. And what matters is you. What matters is this. What matters is that I do not let another day pass, treating us like something that can wait. You cannot wait. We cannot wait. This cannot wait. I have so much more to say to you about the specific ways you have made me better, about the things I see in you that I don't think you see in yourself, about what I want for us, not in the vague, hopeful way, but in the specific, detailed way that means I have actually thought about it, actually pictured it, actually let myself want it fully, instead of keeping it at a safe distance, where it couldn't disappoint me. About the future I have been quietly building in my mind, that has you in every single room of it. But first I need to know that you're still here, still with me, still willing to let me reach across whatever distance has grown between us and find your hand in the dark. Because I am reaching right now. I am reaching with everything I have, and I need you to know that this reach is not desperate, it is certain. It is the most certain thing I have felt in longer than I can remember. I am not reaching because I am afraid. I am reaching because I choose you, deliberately, clearly, with my whole eyes open and my whole heart ready and nothing left to hide behind. I choose you today, the same way I would choose you if I had to start all over from the very beginning, knowing everything I know now, knowing every hard moment and every distance and every silence and every complicated in between. I would still choose you. I would choose you faster. I would choose you louder. I would not waste a single second of it on fear or hesitation or the kind of careful self-protection that costs you the very thing you're trying to protect. There is still so much I need to say to you. About the night I almost said all of this before and didn't. About what stopped me, about what it cost me to stay quiet. About the specific moment I realized that staying quiet was no longer something I was willing to do. That the price of silence had finally become higher than the price of vulnerability. And I want you to understand what it took to get here. Because this did not come easily. This openness, this willingness to stand in front of you with absolutely nothing between us, no armor, no performance, no carefully managed version of myself designed to seem like I have everything under control. This cost me something. It required me to walk through a fear that has lived in me for so long it had started to feel like part of my personality. The fear of being fully seen and found lacking. The fear of giving everything and having it not be enough. The fear of saying all the true things and watching the person you said them to decide that the true things weren't what they wanted after all. That fear has governed so much of my life. It has made decisions for me that I should have made for myself. It has closed my mouth at exactly the moments when I most needed to speak. It has kept me performing okayness in situations that were not okay. Kept me smiling through things that deserved tears, kept me at a careful, managed distance from the people who deserved my closeness most. And I am so tired of it. I am exhausted by the weight of carrying that fear everywhere, of letting it sit in the driver's seat of my own life while I watch from somewhere in the back, telling myself that one day I'll take the wheel back, one day I'll be brave enough. It has kept me performing okayness in situations that were not okay. Kept me smiling through things that deserved tears, kept me at a careful, managed distance from the people who deserved my closeness most. And I am so tired of it. I am exhausted by the weight of carrying that fear everywhere, of letting it sit in the driver's seat of my own life while I watch from somewhere in the back, telling myself that one day I'll take the wheel back, one day I'll be brave enough. I am choosing courage right now. I am choosing it for you. and I am choosing it for the version of me that deserves to finally live honestly. So let me say the things I have never said. Let me go to the specific places I have always circled without landing. Because you deserve specificity. You deserve to be loved in detail, not in vague gestures and implication. You deserve someone who can look directly at you and say exactly what they see, exactly what they feel, exactly what they want, without softening it into something safer or dressing it up into something more impressive. Just the plain, direct, undecorated truth. Here is what I see when I look at you. I see someone who has been through things that would have broken other people, who has carried weight that was never fairly distributed, who has smiled through pain with such convincing grace that the people around her had no idea she was struggling. I see someone who gives generously and quietly and without keeping score, who shows up for the people she loves with a consistency that she herself has never been fully shown in return. I see someone who is harder on herself than she would ever dream of being on anyone else, who holds herself to a standard of strength and composure that no human being can actually sustain indefinitely, who has somewhere along the way decided that her own needs are secondary, not dramatically, not with resentment, just quietly, the way a habit forms, the way a belief becomes so embedded, you stop noticing it's there. I see all of that. I have always seen all of that. And every time I see it, I feel this fierce, protective, overwhelming tenderness toward you that I have not known what to do with. Because I want to stand in front of every version of pain that has ever reached you and say, not this one, not her, because I want to be the person who finally shows you what it feels like to be on the receiving end of the kind of love you give so freely. Because I think you have forgotten, if you ever fully knew, what it feels like to be truly, specifically, unflinchingly chosen. I want to tell you about a night not long ago when I sat alone and thought about you for a long time. Not in a sad way. In the way you think about something that matters, something you're trying to understand more completely. I was thinking about all the moments between us that had felt almost like something. Moments where the air changed and something real passed between us, and then we both looked away. Both chose the safer path. Both retreated back into the ordinary, because the extraordinary felt too risky. I was thinking about how many of those moments there had been. How many times we had stood right at the edge of something true and stepped back from it. And I felt something shift in me that night. Something settled into place. A decision formed that was not dramatic or sudden, but was instead completely quiet and completely certain. I decided that I was done stepping back. I decided that the next time I was standing at the edge of something true with you, I was going to step forward instead. Whatever it cost, whatever it meant, whatever came next, this is me stepping forward. And I need you to understand something about what comes next. About what I'm asking when I reach for you like this. I am not asking you to be perfect. I am not asking you to have everything figured out or to meet me without your own fears and complications and unresolved things. I know you have them. I have mine. That is not a problem to be solved. That is just the reality of two real people trying to build something real together. What I am asking is simply this: don't disappear on me. Don't let the distance win. Don't let the silence become the final word between us, when there is so much still left to say. Because here is what I know about silence, about the particular silence that grows between two people who care about each other, but are both too afraid to go first. It feels like protection at first. It feels like the responsible thing, the careful thing, the thing that keeps you from saying too much or needing too much or exposing yourself to a pain you might not recover from. But it is not protection. It is slow damage. It is the kind of thing that, if left long enough, becomes the story of what happened to something that could have been extraordinary. And I refuse to let that be our story. I refuse to look back on this from somewhere further down the road and know that we had everything we needed and chose silence anyway. I want to tell you what I imagine, what I have let myself imagine in the private hours, in the quiet space where I allow myself to want things fully without immediately talking myself out of them. I imagine a version of us that is not careful, not managed, not held at a responsible distance from its own potential. I imagine us in the full, unguarded, completely committed version of what this could be. And in that version, in the one I keep returning to, because it feels more true than anything else, we are not performing for anyone. We are not trying to seem like anything. We are just two people who decided that the truth between them mattered more than the comfort of pretending, who decided that full love was worth the full risk that comes with it, who chose each other not once, not in a single romantic moment, but every ordinary day, in every small way, consistently and without condition. That is what I want, that specific thing, that unglamorous, consistent, deeply human, completely real thing. I want to know your routines. I want to know the small particular details of how you move through a day, when you're at your best, when you need space, what you reach for when you're overwhelmed, what makes an ordinary Tuesday feel different from all the others. I want the version of you that exists before you've prepared yourself for the world, the one that is still soft from sleep and hasn't put on any of the armor yet. I want your opinions about things that don't matter. I want to argue gently with you about something completely inconsequential and feel the warmth of being someone you feel safe enough to disagree with. I want to sit in the same room as you in silence and feel it as fullness rather than absence, as presence rather than distance. I want to take care of you. And I mean that in the way that goes deeper than grand gestures. I mean in the slow, consistent, detail-oriented way. I want to notice when you're tired before you say it. I want to know which specific worry is sitting behind your eyes on a given day, just from the way you're holding your shoulders. I want to be so attuned to you, so genuinely present with you, that the things you've always had to express loudly to be heard, you can finally express quietly and know that I caught it. I want to be the person whose attention you never have to compete for, whose presence you never have to earn, whose love you never have to wonder about because it is consistent and clear and never conditional on you performing a version of yourself that is easier for me to be around. You have never had that, have you? Not fully, not in the completely reliable, never have to question it way. I think you have had versions of it, glimpses of it, moments where it was close enough to feel real. But I don't think you have had the sustained, unshakable, every single day version of being someone's clear and constant priority. And I think part of you stopped believing it existed. I think somewhere in the accumulation of disappointments, the people who showed up partially, the love that came with conditions, the connections that faded when you needed them most, you made a quiet internal peace with expecting less. You told yourself that this was just how things were, that complete reliability was a fantasy, that the kind of love you had always felt somewhere inside you that you deserved was perhaps too much to actually ask for from a real person in a real world. I need you to hear me when I tell you that you were wrong about that. I need you to let that in, all the way in, past every wall and every learned protection and every place where disappointment made you smaller than you actually are. You were wrong. That love is real. It exists. And it does not require you to be anything other than exactly, completely, imperfectly yourself to receive it. I have made mistakes with you. I will probably make more. I am not offering you a perfect love because perfect love is not something either of us is actually capable of giving. And I think we have both been hurt before by people who promised something frictionless and then disappeared the first time friction arrived. I am not promising frictionless. I am promising something better than that. I am promising present. I am promising that when things get hard, and they will, because real things get hard, I will not disappear. I will not go cold and distant and make you wonder what you did wrong. I will stay. I will lean toward you instead of away from you. I will choose the hard conversation over the comfortable silence every time, because you have taught me that the comfortable silence is only comfortable for a little while, and what it eventually becomes is the sound of two people losing each other by degrees. I am not willing to lose you by degrees. I am not willing to let us become a quiet, polite version of what we could be. I would rather have the difficult, honest, sometimes uncomfortable, fully alive version of us than the careful, managed, slowly fading version. I would rather we argue about something real than agree about nothing. I would rather you tell me the hard thing than protect me from it. I would rather be the person you trust with your actual self than the person you perform your best self for. So here I am, completely here, with no version of myself held back, no safety net, no exit strategy. Just me choosing you in the most deliberate and clear-eyed way I know how. And I need to know, I need to hear it from you, whether you are still in this. Whether you still feel what I feel underneath all the distance and the silence and the complicated everything that has accumulated between then and now. Whether the warmth is still there on your side, still present, still real, still something you're willing to let me reach toward. Because I have been reading the signs wrong before. I have been so inside my own fear, so tangled up in my own interpretation of the distance between us, that I genuinely do not trust myself to know anymore what is real, and what I am constructing out of anxiety and longing and the specific way hope can distort your vision when you want something badly enough. So I am not going to assume, I am not going to decide for you what you feel or don't feel, what you want or don't want, what this is or isn't. I am going to do something I have never done cleanly before. I am going to ask, directly without cushioning it in ambiguity, without leaving myself a comfortable way out, if the answer is not what I need it to be. Do you still want this? Do you still want me? I need you to sit with that question for a moment before you answer it. Not in your head, not in the reflexive way that produces the safe answer before you've actually checked in with what's true. In your body. In the place where real answers lie before the mind gets to them and edits them into something more manageable. Because I think you know. I think underneath everything, underneath whatever hurt has accumulated, whatever disappointment has settled, whatever protective distance you have created between yourself and the full feeling of this, I think you know exactly what you feel. And I think part of you has been waiting for someone to ask the question clearly enough that you felt safe answering it honestly. I am asking that clearly now, and I want the honest answer, whatever it is. But while you're sitting with that, while you're finding your way to whatever is true for you, I want to keep talking, because there is still so much I need to say, and I have learned the hard way that the moments when we are finally willing to be honest with each other are rare and precious, and should not be wasted on silence, when there are still words that need to exist between us. I want to talk about fear, your fear specifically, not as a criticism, never as a criticism, but as something I see in you and want you to know I understand. Because I think your fear and my fear, though they look different on the surface, come from the same place. They come from having been hurt before, from having been open before and having that openness used carelessly or not valued, or simply not met with the same openness in return. I think at some point in your life, someone you trusted with something tender handled it without the care it deserved. And you learned from that. The way we all learn from pain, by adjusting, by protecting, by deciding unconsciously that certain parts of yourself are safer kept private, safer kept behind something solid enough that they can't be reached easily. I know that story. I live that story. And I know that when someone comes along and starts asking you to be open again, asking you to bring those protected parts back to the surface, the instinct is not gratitude. The instinct is fear. The instinct is weight. The instinct is, but what if this is the same thing in a different face? What if I do this again and it cost me the same way it cost me before? What if being that vulnerable again is just setting myself up for a version of the same pain I spent so long recovering from? I want to speak directly to that fear in you right now. Not to dismiss it, it is a reasonable fear. It comes from real experience. It has protected you in ways that mattered. But I want to ask it to consider something. I want to ask it to consider the cost of the other direction. Because fear of being hurt again will keep you safe from that specific pain, yes. But it will also keep you from this. From what we have. From what we could be if both of us were willing to stop protecting ourselves from each other and start protecting each other instead. That is a different kind of safety. The kind that does not come from walls but from trust. The kind that is not about keeping things out but about creating something strong enough on the inside that the outside cannot easily break it. That is what I want to build with you. Not a relationship that survives by keeping each other at a managed distance, but one that is strong because we know each other completely and choose each other anyway. That kind of strength is not built by being careful. It is built by being honest, by showing up imperfectly and being received anyway, by saying the hard things and discovering that the hard things don't end us, they actually bring us closer, by learning each other's fears and holding them gently instead of using them, by learning each other's wounds and being careful around them instead of pressing on them when we're frustrated or afraid. I have not always been careful with you. I want to name that again because I think it bears repeating, because I think sometimes acknowledgement needs to happen more than once before it actually lands. There were moments when I knew where you were tender and I was careless anyway, not maliciously, not with any intention to hurt you, but carelessly, which in some ways is worse because it means I was not paying enough attention. It means that in those moments, my own preoccupation with whatever was happening inside me made me less present to what was happening inside you, and you deserve better attention than that. You have always deserved better attention than that, and I am sorry in the specific, clear way that is not just an apology but a commitment to paying better attention, to choosing presence over preoccupation, to making sure that you never have to wonder whether I am actually here with you, or just physically nearby. There is something I want you to understand about the way I love, because I think it has not always been visible in the ways that are easiest to recognize, and I think that invisibility has sometimes made you doubt it, made you wonder if it was real or sufficient or directed at you with the clarity and intention that love should be directed. I want to explain it so you can see it when it's happening, so the next time it reaches you, you know to receive it instead of wondering what it is. I love in the small ways, in the noticing ways, in the remembering the thing you mentioned weeks ago and bringing it up because it still matters to you ways, in the adjusting my behavior because I learned what affects you ways, in the lying awake thinking about what you said and what you actually meant ways, in the checking in without announcing that I'm checking in ways. It does not always look like grand gestures. It does not always announce itself. It moves quietly and consistently in the background of everything I do, in the way that real, sustained love actually operates when it has settled past the beginning and becomes something that lives in the ordinary rather than the exceptional. But I also want to learn to love you in the ways that are visible to you. That is important to me, because love that operates entirely on its own terms, that expresses itself only in the ways that feel natural to the person giving it, without considering whether those ways actually land for the person receiving it. That is incomplete love. That is love that is more about the giver than the receiver. And you deserve love that meets you where you are, that speaks your language, that reaches you in the specific ways that actually feel like love to you, not just the ways that feel like love to me. So I want to know that. I want to know how love reaches you most clearly. What makes you feel seen? What makes you feel safe? What makes you feel chosen in a way that is undeniable? In a way that does not require you to interpret or wonder or talk yourself into believing. I want to know all the specific details of how to love you well, and I want the chance to actually do it, consistently, over time, in the way that builds into something unshakable. Can I tell you what I think happened to us? Not as an accusation, not as a way of assigning blame, but as an honest observation from someone who has been paying very close attention. I think we both got scared at the same time. I think we both hit a moment where the feeling between us became too real to be comfortable, too significant to be ignored, too much to pretend was something casual or manageable. And instead of moving toward that significance together, instead of looking at each other and saying this is real, and it terrifies me and I'm choosing it anyway, we both stepped back. At the same time, in the same direction, away from each other, away from the thing, away from the risk of it. And then we both stood there in our respective retreats, wondering why the distance had grown, wondering what the other person was feeling, wondering if the reaching out was worth the risk of being the one who reached first. I am the one who is reaching first. I decided that. I am not waiting anymore to see who blinks first or who softens first or who is willing to be more vulnerable first. I am going first, completely and without reservation, because one of us had to, and I would rather it be me than spend another day in the polite, painful limbo of two people who care enormously about each other, but are letting fear make their decisions for them. And here is what I need from you in return: not perfection, not certainty, not a guarantee that everything from here is going to be smooth and uncomplicated. I just need you to be willing to try, willing to bring yourself all the way to the table, instead of sitting sideways in your chair, with one foot pointed toward the door. Willing to let me see the parts of you that you have decided are too much or not enough or too complicated to be worth presenting. I want those parts. I specifically want those parts, not despite their difficulty, but because of what they tell me about who you actually are underneath all the careful management of yourself. I want to know what you're like when you're falling apart. Not because I want to see you suffer, but because the way a person falls apart tells you everything about what they are actually made of. I want to know what you hold on to when everything feels uncertain. I want to know what your voice sounds like when you've stopped being composed, when something has gotten past all the composure and is just coming out raw and unfiltered. I want to be the person you trust enough to fall apart in front of. And I want you to know with absolute certainty that if you fall apart in front of me, I will not step back. I will step forward. I will come closer. I will hold whatever is breaking, and I will stay until it is not breaking anymore. And I will not make you feel for even 1 second that your falling apart is an inconvenience or a burden or something I need you to hurry through so we can get back to the easier version. You are not a burden to me. I need you to hear that plainly. In all the ways you have ever worried about being too much, in all the moments you have held yourself back from full expression, because you were afraid of overwhelming the people around you, I need you to know that with me, that calculation does not apply. There is no version of you that is too much for me. There is no depth of feeling or honesty or need that exceeds what I am willing to meet. I am not going to flinch. I am not going to go quiet and distant when you bring me something real and heavy. I am not going to make you feel the particular loneliness of having been vulnerable with someone who then made you wish you hadn't been. I know that loneliness. I have felt it before, and I know exactly what it does to a person, how it closes things down, how it teaches you to keep your real self behind something protective, because the last time you brought it out it was met with something less than it deserved. I know, and I am telling you, with everything I am and everything I mean, that I will not be that experience for you. I refuse to be that experience for you. Whatever else I am, whatever mistakes I make, whatever imperfect and human ways I fall short of what I'm trying to be, I will always meet your realness with my own. I will always show up for the true version of this, even when the true version is harder than the performed one. There is something else I need to say, something that sits underneath everything else, something that is in some ways the simplest thing, and in other ways the thing that has taken me the longest to be able to say cleanly without my voice doing something complicated in the middle of it. I miss you. Not in the past tense, not as a reference to something that already ended. In the present tense. Right now, in the middle of all of this, I miss you. I miss the version of us that was easy, that was warm, that moved through moments together, without this weight of everything unsaid pressing down on it. I miss your laugh directed at me without the layer of careful distance underneath it. I miss the feeling of being someone you were fully glad to be near. I miss us before we got scared of us. And I want it back. I want to rebuild it into something even better than what it was. Something that has the depth that only comes from having gone through something difficult together and chosen each other on the other side of it. I want the stronger version, the more honest version, the version that has survived its own silence and come back from it with something real to say.